This is something kind of cool. Just look at it. Really, just take this in for a minute, and you can see this is a Gretsch Country Club. It's funny because for guitars, thank you, cameraman, for guitars, it was the guitars are like cars in the 50s and 60s. The big guitars are the fancy guitars, and the little guitars are the cheap guitars. And it's like cars too. You think of a Cadillac, it's always big in the 50s. And it was kind of the same thing with this. These are 17 inches across here. And why? So you get more bass. It's a thing, right? So you always get the deluxe models. Think of a J200 or a White Falcon. And they're big and fancy and cool, and there's something about that, especially in the ethos of 50s. And you get these big hump block inlays on here, or cloud inlays, if you will. This is a 1957 Country Club, and the Country Club was top of the line. You know, they made the White Falcon almost as a joke. They made the first White Falcon, they put it way up high, and they were like, yeah, that would be, no one would buy that, it's got all the gold sparkle, and then they started selling them. Well, this is kind of the same dimensions as a White Falcon. I love the way this looks, and we got this from somebody that totally played professionally. Once you put it on, you can feel it was played professionally. You can just feel in the grip, and you can feel acoustically too. It just resonates, and yet it has that kind of muffled sustain that only Gretsch's do. And when it's acoustic, it's their kind of muffled thing, yet it still sustains that only Gretsch's seem to be able to do. Not all Gretsch's came with a Bigsby. Personally, I think every Gretsch should come with a Bigsby. And this is one of those era too where they actually have a tone control, not a tone switch. This is why this era of these guitars, this 56, 55, 57 era with a tone knob instead of a tone switch, is really much easier to use. It's up here. Not everybody reaches for their tone control. We're guitar players. We're all, you know, a little. And then master volume. Volume. So these bottom three are volumes. The idea being, of course, that in the middle of the guitar, the string is going like this. At the ends of the string length, it is going at a much slower rate. So in the middle, the neck pickup gets driven harder. So if the pickups are exactly the same output, this pickup will always be louder. You might want to turn that down to level that out and then bring them both up and both down in that way. Makes sense? I know half of you know exactly what I'm talking about. The other half are going to rewind what I just said. Go ahead. See? So, I am also playing through, this just came in, this is a 1971 Deluxe Reverb. Anytime we have a good old amplifier, especially something built, a hand-wired amp like that, we always put it through the shop. And we did on this. And this has a new power cord, and it's all freshened up. We always clean the pots and tighten the tube sockets, you know, so the little grippers that go on there, we tighten those up so it clings onto the tube. And in this case, we changed a couple of preamp tubes that were shot, and it just sounds. I'm going to turn this up a bit. I love that. That's also what you get with a bigger guitar, is a little more feedback, but as long as you're not facing the amplifier like I am, that usually is not a problem, and we'll theorize that like this. Bridge pickup. Two pickup. And neck pickup. is just a luscious sounding guitar. So there's a few things. The buttons on here, these used to have the large imperials on it. Somebody put nickel plated kidney buttons on it, gold, nickel, so those were replaced. I've seen it happen before. And then it is gold hardware on here. New Gibson bridge, brand new Gibson bridge. We believe the Bigsby was added onto it, and you can see the pick guard is not a Gretsch guard. It would have said Gretsch on it. That's something you could add later if you wanted, but this kind of came to us like this. We did any neck work that had to be done. This had a little truss rod action that we fixed, we repaired. Everything's just in nice working order. We just got it back from the shop. We're going to detail some of the pots and stuff. This pot, well, there's a little bit of noise we heard. We'll just spray this out, but this will be ready for you. And I hope you guys had a nice Labor Day weekend, because by Tuesday, this thing's going to be out, and it's just a fantastic guitar with a cool case, a really cool case. And cases more and more are getting more and more expensive, and the case being added on to any guitar really adds value to it, both in its authenticity and its cool man vibe. The cool man thrives. And then we have this Fender Deluxe Reverb. These tail logo Deluxe Reverbs are always hand wired. When they removed the tail from that logo is about the same time they started going to printed circuit boards, except on the smaller amps from the Deluxes on down. They continued to make them hand wired because there was less components in there. And so again, original speaker. This is all original amp. It's been freshly cleaned up. These things have gone up in value in part because of what they would take to replicate. For someone to replicate this with a pine cabinet, a thin floating baffle that's screwed on, and with the components that's in here, this is a tough amp to replicate new. This would be 35 new, and it is only 3. In our mind, amplifiers like this are way undervalued compared to, and we're going to get into more of this on the type of wood they used and stuff on these older amps. And then this, just to see this, when was the last time we had a country club? When was the last time you saw a country club, especially with this very real and very sexy binding of a guitar that knows all of your licks? One last chord, and then I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you. Here we go.